Hi, I'm Bob Diamond, America's tax sale attorney, and today we're diving headfirst into tax sale laws and how they affect you as an investor buying at tax deed sales. Understanding these crucial elements is critical to your success as an investor at tax sales. Let's start with the basics. Tax deed sales are public auctions held by local governments where the government sells the real estate to collect the overdue real estate taxes. Now, typically these real estate taxes are 3 to 4 years past due, and your bidding starts very low at the cost of the real estate taxes that are past due. And probably that's going to add up to 10 or at most 15% of the property value. And since bidding starts at such a low number, 10 to 15% of the property value, the tax deed auction can represent a golden opportunity for investors like yourself to acquire properties at absolute bargain prices, literally pennies on the dollar. But tax sales are absolutely not for the uneducated. There are serious pitfalls which you can avoid, but only if you're educated on the pitfalls and you take care to avoid them. The key is research and due diligence before you purchase a property at tax deed sale. So what's your first job? First is to pick a state and a county where you want to buy properties. Generally for tax deed sales, that means your local tax deed sale. Most sales are conducted at the county level, meaning that you're going to probably work in your local county or one of the nearby surrounding counties. And at the county level, what I mean by that is that all the tax delinquent properties in a county are sold at one sale. Now, in a few states, such as New Jersey, Connecticut, Alaska, and a few others, tax deed sales are held at the municipal level. And you can tell whether you're talking about a municipal sale or a county sale depending on who puts out the list. If the list is put out by the county, then it's a county sale. If the list is put out by your local municipality, then it's a sale of the properties in that municipality only. And this is just one example that shows you how each state has its own set of tax sale laws and rules that you need to learn before you bid. Otherwise, you can't even, in this example, get a list. But it gets more serious than that. It's not just who's holding the sale. There are much more serious and impactful differences. For example, in Pennsylvania, there are actually two different tax sales. There's a traditional tax deed sale, which is called the judicial sale, and at that sale, properties are sold free and clear of mortgages and liens. Now, that's typical of tax deed sales across the country, meaning liens and judgments and mortgages are wiped clean from the property, and the buyer takes free and clear of those mortgages, liens, and judgments. But in Pennsylvania, there's a separate tax deed sale, which is called the upset sale, and that is a second kind of sale that's held in Pennsylvania. Now, that one's always held the third week in September as per Pennsylvania law. At the upset tax deed sale, the properties are sold, get this, subject to existing liens and mortgages. So what's unique about the upset sale is that the liens and mortgages are still attached to the property despite the property having gone through tax sale. If you did not research how the tax sales work in Pennsylvania before you bid at an upset sale, you could easily buy a property that looks like it's a great deal until you find out that there's a big mortgage attached to the property, and that mortgage needs to be paid. Otherwise, your interest in the property, meaning your ownership, could be foreclosed away. So in order to safely bid at the Pennsylvania upset sale, you have to pull a title report on the property so you know what liens and mortgages are on title to the property before you bid, because those are going to remain attached to the property and you'll have to pay them, or you can lose the property, meaning lose ownership of the property, if that lien or mortgage forecloses. Also, even if the lien or mortgage doesn't foreclose, you will not be able to sell or refinance the property until those liens and mortgages are cleared by paying them. That is completely different from most tax deed sales throughout the country, where the tax deed sale clears liens and mortgages from the property, and as the buyer at the tax deed sale, you get the property free and clear of those liens and mortgages. That's just one example of why you absolutely must know the laws in the state where you're buying a tax deed sale before you bid. Now, there are plenty of more examples I could give, such as whether the properties come with a right of redemption. That would allow a property owner to pay the taxes after the tax deed auction and keep ownership of the property. Just one example, in Georgia, the property owner has a year after the tax deed sale to pay the taxes and keep the property. In Connecticut, the owner has 6 months to pay the taxes and keep the property. So you need to know all these various rules and laws in the various states because of serious issues like rights of redemption. Because when a right of redemption is in place, you can't take over the property because you don't yet own it. And of course, that's not the only set of rules that you need to know. Tax sale properties can be occupied, meaning someone may be living on them. And the government does not clear out the occupants for you. You need to take your own legal action to evict people, and that doesn't mean you can go and remove the front door and chase them out with a gun. You are not allowed to do that. Often to evict people, you need to do a particularly costly type of eviction called an ejectment action. And that can take many months to do and cost a lot of money because you have to hire a lawyer. And to make matters worse, you might need to hire and pay a bonded mover to pack and store all the contents of the house that belong to the occupants once you win the ejectment action. So you can evict them, also have to hire a bonded mover to pack up their things and put it into storage, and you typically have to prepay the storage. So you need to factor in the potential costs of evicting occupants in your bid amount. And the examples I gave today are just a few examples of the many pitfalls in tax deed investing. It's of course offset by the low prices, but you do need to look into everything about the property and understand the rules during your due diligence period before you buy the property. You have to look at things like environmental problems. That makes it so I wouldn't buy a commercial property at most tax sales. You know, if property's ever been a dry cleaner or used as a farm or used as a gas station, good chance it has environmental problems. You might ask, why farm? Well, farms often have an area where they work on the tractors and tools, and often those areas are contaminated with oil and things like that. So if you buy the property at tax sale, you're stuck with the bill to clean it up. So you really need to be careful. Now, environmental problems don't come so frequently with residential properties, but they can. You can have underground storage tanks that leak. So all those things need to be taken into account. You also have the ability of former owners to challenge a tax deed sale. So what some investors do with that is they buy unoccupied properties rather than occupied properties. That's a lot less likely to be challenged. So all of these risks really need to be accounted for prior to your bidding for the property. And the good news is that if you educate yourself, you can account for the risks and you can succeed because the low bid prices, starting at typically just a few years of back taxes, like I said earlier, adding up typically to 10, maybe 15% of the value of the property, can make for some absolutely amazing deals on real estate bought at tax deed auction. But bidding is definitely not for the uneducated and not for someone who hasn't done due diligence. You have to do your homework ahead of time. Bidding is for someone who takes the time to educate themselves and then does the due diligence on the properties before bidding. So here are some highlights from my own tax deed bidding due diligence list to help you. First question, are liens and mortgages divested from the sale? Usually the answer is yes, but you got to know that for sure before you bid on anything. What's the process, the time, and the cost to evict an occupant of the property? Is there a right of redemption? When is payment for the bid due? Now typically that's right either at the sale or shortly after, and it's in cash. You can't get mortgages for these things. So typically you need to have that cash ready to go. And how do they take payment? Do they want cash only? A bank check? Bank check's what you would think of as a cashier's check, but these days they're called bank checks. Wire transfer, ACH, you need to know those things. Do you need to do a quiet title action to have marketable title? Very commonly you do. That's a separate lawsuit that gets a judge's determination that you are the owner of the property, free and clear of any old owner's interests or any other interests. Typically costs a couple $1,000s and it takes a couple of months to do. So it's another consideration. Also, you want to know if sales are easy to overturn if a former owner challenges them. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, but you need to know that. And also you need to look at the property, at least do a drive-by. Now they don't give you interior access. There's no like open house or anything like that. So legally all you can really do is look at the house from the street. Practically speaking, a lot of investors go peek in the windows and lots of people walk through the house if it's unlocked and empty, but you're technically trespassing if you do that, so keep that in mind. But you do want to look from the street. What sort of work does it look like it needs? Is it occupied or vacant? Often a good way to figure that out is to buy in the evening when the lights would be on, if someone's there. Are there signs of fire or roof damage? You got to look. Sometimes the signs of fire are not that obvious until you realize that there's a hole from firemen putting an axe through the roof, or there's smoke that you see, smoke signs at the tops of windows or from under eaves. You also have to think about if you're buying a property that's in a cold weather climate, has it sat over a freezing winter and then likely has burst pipes? You got to think about that. You got to think about all those things because these properties are typically not well maintained, because people are broke because, as proven by the fact they can't pay their real estate taxes, so often the tax sale properties do need a lot of work. Now, you also have to think about what are you going to do with the property? Are you going to hold it as a rental? If so, what are the rents? Do places rent easily, or is it hard to rent them? If you're talking about a fix and flip, what's the resale value? And how long do properties take to sell in that neighborhood? So once you've done all that research and you've evaluated the property, you want to calculate what you're willing to bid on the property. And at the auction, don't get too excited about the process. Stick to your guns and stop bidding if the bid goes above your maximum price. There are sometimes people that show up at sales that are idiots that pay too much at the auctions because they don't do the research or they don't know what they're doing. So you don't want to be subject to paying more than an idiot. So make sure that you calculate your bid and stick to it. Now, all this being said, you can absolutely win big at the tax deed auction game, but your due diligence and knowledge of the tax sale process, the laws and the regulations are the keys to unlocking success. And of course, combined with thorough due diligence and strategic auction tactics and discipline, do that and you'll be well on your way to success. So if you want some further details about tax deed sales and also information about tax lien sales, which are another way to make money with past due taxes, and a related and frankly, I think even better business called tax sale overages, I have a free mini course for you where I educate you about all three opportunities. And you can get your own free copy of that mini course using the link in the description below. And I'll talk to you about the different profit opportunities. I'll talk to you about overages, about tax lien sales, tax deed sales, what's better and why, and what the opportunities are, and that will help you unlock the potential for financial success. So this is America's tax sale attorney, Bob Diamond. Thanks for listening. Go get that free mini course so I can give you more information about this exciting and lucrative world of tax deed sales, tax lien sales, and my favorite, overages.